This is the Nitecore P35i. This is a really interesting flashlight. It's a 2-in-1 with a 3,400 lumen floodlight on one channel and a 400 lumen 700,000 candela laser spotlight on the other channel. This is a bit of an interesting, unconventional design, but it's a really cool implementation. The performance is excellent, the build is great, and it's just really easy to use. I like this light a lot. So let's talk about the build of this. It's pretty interesting. As you can see, this top part of the light here is kind of big and chunky. This is gonna fit all of the complicated electronics. And then we have kind of this longer, skinnier battery tube, which has a single 21700 cell inside. Here at the rear, we have a forward clicky switch and an E switch here at the side with an OLED panel in front that displays various information about the light, output, run times, and the channel that it's on. Okay, so what's really interesting about this flashlight is the fact that it's a hybrid. So we have 6 floody LEDs up here at the front and a single large LEP, laser excited phosphor channel for the throw. Okay, here's the Nitecore P35i. This is the flood channel. This is level 3, which is 300 lumens. We'll bump it up to the max output. So this is about 3,400 lumens on the flood channel. And as you can see, it does a really great job illuminating pretty much everything. It goes right down to my feet, but it also punches out to the tree line there. If we look up at this tree here on our left, you can see it illuminates pretty much the whole tree, does a great job. If we point out to this tree here on our right, does a good job hitting that, illuminating it pretty clearly and the surrounding area. And again, the tree line out past that is visible, not super well lit, but it is visible. Okay, so this is the LEP, and this is at max output. And you can see this is a super intense LEP, and it does a very good job at punching out there. Here's the bench and the tree. And this one has, you'll notice there's kind of a ring around the spot, kind of an artifact there. I'm not a huge fan of that, but it's not a big deal. This is one of the most intense LEPs I've used. It's quite impressive. Really good beam. If we look out here on the right, does a pretty good job punching through some of the holes in the trees there. This is definitely too short of a range for this to really be a very effective flashlight, but now this is blasting both channels on at max output, and you see it actually does quite a good job balancing this super bright floodlight, but also giving you some extra punch there with that LEP. This is actually pretty solid if you're trying to see something at a distance but also be walking, so you have a good sense of your surroundings. I think this is a really good balance. Does a great job as a hybrid thrower flooder. Now, compared to some other hybrid LEP LED flashlights I've used, this flood channel is actually a bit throwier, which in my opinion makes it more useful in general terms. I think it's a really great balance between the flood and the throw. What's also excellent is the performance. So Nitecore claims 3,000 lumens on the max output for the flood channel, but I actually measured substantially more than that. I was getting 3,400 in my tests. But even despite that super high output, and despite having 2 flashlights basically crammed into here, the performance is really good, so it sustains a solid amount of output and it runs for a good long while. I'm actually really impressed with the electronics in here. Nitecore has done a great job. Now, the build quality of this light is also very good. The only thing I don't really like is the USB-C port here at the back. So it's right next to the switch and it's got this rubber cover in front of it, which is just way too easy to accidentally flip up, and I think it's kind of a big liability as far as like water sealing goes. So I'm not really a fan of that. In the box, Nitecore also includes a really great holster, but they also include a remote switch, which plugs into this USB-C port, which is a unique way of doing it. It's really fast and convenient. I just don't know how secure that is, so I'm not really sure how trustworthy that's going to be. I haven't used this remote switch, like I haven't mounted this light on a gun, so I can't really speak to that, how effective it is, but you know, at least they include it, and that is cool. So the interface is really simple and straightforward. I like it a lot, though I do have one issue with it. On the rear here, we have a forward clicky tail switch that will turn the light on and off to the last memorized mode. On the side, we have this E switch that will cycle upward through the modes as it's pressed. Then if it's pressed and held while on, it'll switch to turbo, which just blasts both channels on maximum, which is great. I like that. The only thing I don't like is to cycle between the channels, you press the side button while it's off and then press the rear tail switch, and that will cycle through the modes. So it'll cycle between flood, spot, and mix. And although that's easy to do, it's easy to use, I'm just not a fan of that because it's kind of ergonomically inconvenient and it just takes too long, in my opinion, to cycle through the modes. So not my favorite system, but it's okay. One of my favorite features is the little OLED display here that gives us all kinds of cool information. When the light is off and we press the button, it will tell us our memorized level, our mode, and our battery level. Then when we turn the light on, it will actually tell us, again, our level in our mode, but also the lumen output we have, the expected throw, and how much runtime we have left. So if we switch that to spot here, it will adjust and show us a much longer throw here, as well as slightly longer runtime because we're using less battery. So this is a really cool feature. I like this a lot. So the ergonomics are actually pretty solid. Despite being rather chunky up here, it's pretty nice to hold and to use. However, I do think this probably would have been nicer with like a thicker battery. So like a 26650 or 26800 I think would be really cool options for this. 26800 would be about the same length, a little bit longer, and it would be thicker, and you'd get quite a bit more runtime with that. On the downside, 26800 is just not very common, so I can see why they wouldn't want to go with that. That's understandable. I don't know, Nitecore maybe should consider that for another model in the future. The bigger thing that I don't like about this though is the proprietary nature of the 21700. So this is kind of a really big issue for me, and I know for a lot of other people, but Nitecore has done the thing where they add bits to the top and the bottom of the cell that make it only compatible with their light. So the top right here has contacts for positive and negative. You know, you can buy these batteries for them. You can charge them in normal chargers, which is nice. You don't have to charge it in the light. If you've got a bay charger, it will work. And that's great and all, but it just means you can't use standard 21700s in here, and that just kind of sucks. Actually, it really sucks. And so that's an issue. I'm definitely not a fan of that. Now, as for the price, Nitecore is selling this for $300. Now, of course, they sent this along to us for review, and we do have a coupon code and a link down in the description you can go to. But you know, that is expensive. That's an expensive flashlight. I think all things considered, the LEP tech, the hybrid nature, the good drivers they're using, the good build quality, I think that is a fair price for this flashlight. Now, Nitecore kind of likes to aim for more of the tactical market, and I can't really speak to how good this would be for those scenarios, but if you want those features, you know, I think this will be a really well-performing light. I think it would be really fun to use on a hike. I think it'd be really fun to use hunting or camping or the like. It's just a really nice light. So if $300 is not too much for you, and if you're okay with the battery situation, I do recommend this light. I do think it's really good. Otherwise, if those two things turn you away, we do have a video coming that's going to be comparing other 21700 LEP hybrid flashlights. So stay tuned for that. That's going to be really fun. And yeah, thanks for watching. I hope this video was helpful.